and welcome to another episode of Senior Moments with Vicki Peterson. I am so glad you chose to join us today. I have a special guest today, and we're going to talk about abuse in the senior community. Her name is Myra Cassidy. So get your pens and your paper. You know, we always have information to share with you. And we'll get started with the show. But first, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with my guest, Myra Cassidy.
Hello, my name is Terrence White, and I'm the Executive Director of Community Action of Greater Indianapolis. Serving the counties of Marion, Hamilton, Hendricks, and Boone, our mission is to empower those we serve to be self-sufficient and self-reliant. We offer a variety of programming, including senior and youth programs, case management, weatherization, financial coaching, and more. Please visit our website for more information or call 317-396-1800.
A Senior Moment with Vicki Peterson.
Seniors, let's talk about Alzheimer's and dementia. If you or a loved one have concerns about memory loss, it is very important to be evaluated by a doctor. Early diagnosis allows you and your family time to participate in decisions about your care, living arrangements, financial, and legal matters. For more information, contact Alzheimer's Association National Office. As I told you, we have a beautiful guest here today. The subject is not so great, but it's something that needs to be discussed. So I'd like to welcome my guest, Myra Cassidy. How are you today, Myra?
I am doing very well, Miss Vicki. Thank you so much for allowing me, the time to talk about such an important topic.
Yes, and I appreciate you being my guest today. But we're going to start out, tell the viewers a little bit about Myra.
Absolutely. Well, what I do is I'm into travel is what I do. I'm an author, so I have written books on the topic of domestic violence, which is why I have the knowledge that has to do with what we're going to talk about today. So I'm an author, a motivational speaker, but I also work in the area of travel. And with that, the reason why is because of the wellness benefit that I'm able to help others achieve, as well as myself, being a survivor of domestic violence, which is what my book also talks about. So I'm a luxury travel advisor, and I book women's empowerment retreats as well.
Oh, wow. That sounds good. Well, first of all, what does elder abuse mean to you?
Well, elder abuse, very similar. As I mentioned before, I am a survivor of domestic violence, which is really kind of such a big foundation of my story and my journey, and wanting people to always see, after the storm, that there is survival and survival is possible. So elder abuse, very similar to what an individual may think of when it comes to domestic violence, are things that have to do with controlling a person. Okay, controlling a person, whether it's controlling their finances, telling them when and where they can go and what they can and cannot do. And of course, it could even be a physical portion of that as well, whether it be a family member or a caregiver of that person. So when we talk about elder abuse, we're talking about abuse that takes part or that happens later on in life. Now, Ms. Vicki, what I do want to share is, I'm not a elder abuse certified professional, but I do have the knowledge that I've gained from, hours of training at the Indiana Coalition of Domestic Violence, as well as, like I said, my own experiences and the things that I've learned being in the healthcare field. Because once upon a time, before this, I did spend 10 years in the health field. And I, was a certified nurse's assistant. So I've spent time in nursing homes, and I've cared for individuals, primarily pediatric patients, but I've spent time on other units as well.
All right. So what does those behaviors include? What you mentioned, the finances, and a lot of people don't realize that is abuse.
It
When you're
is
controlling
abuse.
someone's finances.
It is abuse. So that's some of the things that it would definitely include is, all those things that are controlling. Also, I want to mention that it can also even be romantic interest. Sometimes that does happen where individuals are in a romantic relationship and it is abuse because that individual is pretending to have some type of romantic interest. What comes to mind is what happened to Jennifer Lewis, this wonderful actress, and she was a victim herself in scam. Not only that, there's a lot of different elder scams that are out there where
Yeah.
individuals are calling individuals homes or you're getting things in the mail, and
Yeah.
what they want to do is put pressure on you to make you act. All of that is included in behaviors that count as elder abuse. And especially with us being in this technology age that we're in, there's always those attempts to get information, and the elderly, the seniors, become victims of
Yes,
that.
they do. Yes, they do. In your opinion, what can seniors do to protect themselves?
Well, there's a lot of things. For one, I'm gonna say pay attention. Pay attention. Um, once it seems like once individuals reach the winter of life, especially individuals who've always naturally had a giving spirit, you want to give a little more. So you really have to pay attention and still always be very, very discerning of individuals. One other thing that is important, Vicky, I feel like there's such a generation gap, between seniors and their children.
Yes.
And that gap creates space where conversations are not being conducted that really need to be conducted. So, one thing that individuals can do is share information with your children. It's okay to let them know where your important papers are in case they need them. Okay, letting them know where important documents and important papers are. And not only that, one thing that seniors can do is have copies of important documents themselves. Medication doses and things like that can change.
Yes.
Have your doctors written down. Things like this that if you need them, you can have it. And I'm going to say this too, Vicky. There's so many different forms of elder abuse and what it could look like because it can also take place in a nursing home. That's, another type. So sometimes individuals may not be able to have a to go bag, and that's why it's so important for seniors to talk to their children and
Yes.
let them know their wishes so that they can be advocates for them, and be aware of what's happening. It's so important. So to have medical directives together, who's going to speak for me if I cannot speak for myself? And not only that, we live in Indiana, right? So tornadoes,
Yes.
natural disasters can
Mhm.
definitely happen. So you should have documents and things that are ready to go or to go back is really recommended, just because we live in Indiana. So when you get into, that winter of life, having those things ready to go is really important should something happen. So it's always important to pay attention and please, 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 please talk to your children. Have it already decided beforehand, right? Beforehand, if something happens to me, because things can happen unexpectedly, if
Yes.
something happens to me, I want you to speak for me. These are my wishes. This is what I want to have because a lot of times things will happen and the families fussing, families fighting, no one knows where things are. So
Yeah.
really being prepared before something happens is so important, as well. And that's another reason why also I want to speak to this, Miss Vicky. It's never too early to save for retirement because
Oh no.
how sad is it to reach the winter season of life and you've worked all your life and you can't, or the funds are not available to make sure that you're able to care for yourself, like you've always have, or in a reasonable way.
Right.
Because, the better you are prepared, the better care you're going to get. And if you have to go into a facility or an assisted living situation, if you have the funds in place, then you have more power to choose where you want to go,
That's
right?
right.
And
I really like the food.
all senior assisted living facilities or nursing homes are not created equal. So
No,
having the right to choose is important.
I really like to see our seniors age at home, age in their own homes. I really
Mhm.
do. I think
Yeah.
that's best. And I'd like that you touched on the fact that what family members can do to protect their, senior loved ones. I like that you touched on that fact because that is very, very important. Your family becomes more and more important to you, whether you realize it or not, as you age, because you need them, like you said, to be the voice for you. So we're going to go ahead before we keep going here. We're going to have to take a short break, Myra, but we'll
Okay.
be right back with Myra Cassidy.
A senior moment with Vicki Peterson.
Seniors, you probably notice your appetite and food habits changing as you age. Your daily food choices can make a major impact on your health. Healthier eating habits will make you feel better and makes for a better doctor's visit. Foods like vegetables, fruit, whole grain beans, and breads. You also need 3 servings of low-fat milk, yogurt, or cheese daily for strong bones. Contact your doctor to schedule a visit with a nutritionist, and don't forget your water.
Over 70% of Americans want to spend their final days at home with family and friends.
With hospice care, we can take care of your father at home, right in his bedroom, including visits by a nurse.
I'm so relieved to hear that.
This will make Grandpa really happy. He's comfortable and pain-free.
Visit our website at www.hospicesupportfund.org to connect with your local nonprofit hospice and download our free end-of-life planner.
Okay, welcome back. Welcome back. As I said, we have Myra Cassidy with us today, and it's such a pleasure to have her join us today. Okay, Myra, and like we said, if you're just tuning in, we're talking about a very, very touchy subject, and that is elder abuse, along with anyone else that's having abuse. If a senior even knows someone that's been abused in their family. And Myra did tell us in the first segment, she is not a quote unquote professional on this subject. She has written a book that she's going to tell us the name of before we end the show. And she's done a lot of studying and she's worked in the health field. But I do want you guys to know that the prosecutor office has its own section, the elder abuse. So if you know of a senior that is being abused, contact the prosecutor's office. They have, as I just said, an elder abuse department. So there is help out there for our seniors that are being abused because we definitely don't want them to be abused. Okay, Mara, you say you was like a caregiver. How important is it for caregivers to get the proper rest and help they need to care for their loved ones?
It's super important. Wellness is so important to make sure you're in a mental state to give the best care that you can. And it gets to be a very, very emotional thing when you're caring for mom or dad. It's very, very emotional and seeing their health decline. So you also need your rest because just the grief that you're experiencing is going to take a toll on you. And sometimes individuals, unfortunately, can get in a state of frustration and things could happen that could hurt. And that's what you want to avoid. So definitely having the proper rest. And then, too, it's great to be able to take time away when you need it and not feel guilty about it. So it's really important for families to really step in there because a lot of times what you will see is like a primary caregiver.
Excellent.
If there's more than one child or more than one relative
Mhm.
involved, there usually is a primary caregiver, and that's why it's so important for other family members to step in and say, hey, let me take over today. Let me learn how to care for mom or dad or auntie or grandma in this way so you can have the day off because we need you to be at 100% to take care of our relative.
And Myra, you're absolutely correct because I work with seniors a lot through my licensed personal service agency and my nonprofit. And you run into it more than people think, or they may already know. There's always, I don't care if they have 15 children, there's always that one that's doing all the work for the parent. or the aunt or the uncle, and they do need a break, and someone can step in and help them. So you're absolutely right about that. Now, you said at one time that you were a CNA. Is that correct?
Right. Hmm.
Okay, tell us what lessons that you learned from that experience and the two most important challenging situations you observed.
You know what? The most important thing is just being patient and people being prepared. Families have to be prepared, because this is just a part of life, getting into that winter season of life. So being prepared is so important. I just want to stress that point. But two of the most important lessons that I hope that stick with me. One situation, being a survivor of domestic violence, I was very, very young when I witnessed this. It was a couple who were in their winter of life, and neither one of them was really verbal at this point, but you knew what kind of marriage they had because the husband still had that behavior, and it would raise his hands to caregiver. I had caregivers. So I had the experience where he raised his hand at me before. So that told me already what kind of marriage they had. And what the facility did was separate the husband and the wife. But what I noticed was the wife, when he would have a fit at breakfast, when everyone's eating breakfast together and being cared for, she would cry or she would get scared. And that really stuck with me because, the children being exposed to domestic violence probably thought having mom and dad together was the best thing. But clearly she was affected by that, and how
Yeah.
sad for a woman to live her whole life like that. And then even in, you know, as her health declines, she still can't get any peace. And because she's physically crying. That was one instance that stuck with me. And then as a survivor of domestic violence, I was getting to the point where I was getting ready to leave my own journey. Where I knew I had to go. I knew I had to go, and I was in a nursing home, and this individual was not a senior, but she was in that home, and she was actually in the facility where she used to work. And unknowingly to her co-workers, she was a victim of violence, and they did not know until her husband tried to choke her. Well, he did succeed. He choked her and he tried to kill her, and he did not succeed. And she was left living like a 2-year-old for the rest of her life.
Oh,
So, those things really stick with me. And that's why it's so important to get help when you are in a situation of domestic violence, because you can lose your life. It is a serious situation. And elder abuse is a serious situation because, like you said, Vicky, we don't want our elders being hurt or harmed, or for them to not be able to live their full life course because of any kind of abuse or violence.
that is absolutely true. And you're absolutely right. Um, some people just put them in their some don't even think about them anymore. That's a form of abuse to me.
You're absolutely right. And what's important too is that when they're in those nursing homes, get comfortable. Look at mom and dad. I know it can be uncomfortable to like pull up their shirt, examine them. And even if they're not verbal, it can help you if you say, Mama, I'm gonna check you out. Okay, I want to make sure you're okay, because they can get bed sores.
Right, right, absolutely.
That's
And
important.
they don't tell you a lot of what's going on because they're afraid that once you go up there and pitch a Lulu about how they're treating me, and then you walk out the door, I get abused even more because you, as a family member, is not here enough, and it's sad, but it's true. It's really heartbreaking,
It is
very
very
heartbreaking.
heartbreaking. Very
Well,
heartbreaking.
we want to talk a little bit about you. I'm sorry that you had to experience, that abuse yourself at such a young age. You're such a young woman now, so that had to be when you were even much younger.
Very young, very young. It was over 18 years. I mean, I was an adolescent getting into it. But the problem, Vicky, is this. I talked about generation gaps before. It wasn't until I was an adult, grown woman with children that I learned that I was actually among the third woman within my family tree to endure domestic violence and physical violence at that. Within a Christian community. And that hurt me so bad because you can't make any choices if you're not aware. I was not aware. I will say that at a pretty young age, I did know that my grandmother, that's the way she died, that her husband struck her on the head till she had an aneurysm and died. I didn't know that. but I did not realize exactly the weight of that until I was, an older woman, until I was a woman of my own, with children. And then I started putting the pieces of the puzzle together that we never spoke about, and was like, well, wait a minute, I have domestic violence that runs on both sides of my family. And no one shared this with me. And that's why I'm determined, Vicki, to make sure I break the cycle for the fourth generation coming up of children. My daughter's 20. So it's 20 on down, because awareness makes such a big difference. They have to be aware. So that's why, no matter what I do as a luxury travel advisor, it's so important that people see where I've come from and where I'm going.
Well, Myra, tell them the name of your book and how they can get that if they're interested.
Absolutely. It's called Let Mia Tell It. Let Mia, Mia, Tell It. It's available on Amazon. So check it out. Definitely write me a review. And you can check out my website, myracassidy.com, MyRaCassidy.com, as well.
And you say you're a travel agent?
I am. I'm so much into wellness. Now, when I first started my business, I strictly was just focused on being an author and a motivational speaker, but decided to get into luxury travel because of the wellness benefits and my desire to book luxurious women's empowerment retreats. And I like to talk about some of these things that we're addressing today for women, the importance of being prepared. So that way when they're in their winter of life, they can have the best outcome possible. Like you said, Vicki, hopefully they'll stay at home. Hopefully they'll stay at home. But that's also something that I'm very, very passionate about, is travel and booking luxury travel. Want to make sure people have the best experiences possible, quality experiences, because being a survivor of domestic violence, I know what it's like to feel low. And now I deserve to be pampered, right? And I want to be able to create those experiences for other people while I'm still educating and telling people, my story.
Oh, that is awesome that you're willing to share that story, share your story, because a lot of people want to keep that part of their life hidden and they don't realize that you're helping someone. You're helping someone
Absolutely.
when you tell your story, because a lot of people
Absolutely.
feel like they're the only ones going through this and you're not. So I think that is very awesome of you to share the story. Now, if someone wants to get in touch with you personally again about the luxury travel, how would they do that?
Oh, definitely, definitely. Please do send me an email. It's luxury@myracassidy.com. That's my email, luxury@myracassidy.com, or call me. Call me or text me. 317-620-1592. 317-620-1592. I look forward to hearing from you.
Okay, we have a couple of more minutes left. So, with that minute or so we have left before I close the show, what would you like the final thoughts be? Your final thoughts.
Well, you know what, Vicki, I wanted to touch on one thing that you shared with me, that you just, mentioned. When I was going through domestic violence, I didn't know. I didn't really know. I was so naive to so many things. And it took 10 years of me going to domestic women's counseling. And then I went away for some time, and situations continued to happen with my husband before I was like, I'm done. I'm done. It took a long time for me to break free. And still in the place where I sit, family
Mhm.
members don't want to talk about it. It's uncomfortable. They would rather me not say anything about it. But
Right.
how is that going to help other people, and especially the children in our family? I believe
Are you
that,
afraid to leave, Myra?
of course, of course. And I went back, and this is something too, Vicki. I was able to go to the Jillian Center for a time when I was pregnant with my youngest. I was in a Jillian Center, and I didn't have the courage to stay and receive the help. One, because it was just so different being in the shelter, and I was so concerned about my children and their environment. So I was definitely scared to leave, but at a certain point, I stopped being scared. I
All
stopped
right.
being, and that's when I got scared of
Good.
myself, because it's like, I'm not scared of this anymore. I'm
Yeah.
tired. I'm not going to take it. And I encourage people, please break free, because one thing that never left me when I took those training courses, those counseling services, was
Yes.
that the way this usually ends is either he'll kill you or you'll kill him. You got to break free.
You're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. I want to thank you again so much for being my guest today with such valuable information. It's like I said at the beginning of the show, it is a hard topic, but it's a much needed conversation that needs to be had. So we're going to have you back on the radio show eventually. I'll get you scheduled for that. If you missed her numbers, you guys, and you take my number down to Myra, you guys, you know, you can always reach me at 317-503-0992. And don't forget to catch my radio show, All Senior Citizens Connect radio show with Vicki Peterson. We air every Friday at 10 a.m. from 10 to 10:30. Join us sometime. Call in to my guests. But we are on AM 1310 The Light. WTLC's AM 1310 The Light every Friday from 10 to 10:30. And of course, Senior Moments with Vicki Peterson every Thursday at 11:30 on WHMB TV 40. And again, thank you, Myra, for being my guest. I look forward to having you so the radio listeners can hear you and get your book.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ms. Vicki. I appreciate you.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Okay, our show has come to an end now. I want to thank you for joining us today. And you know how I like to end my show? This is the day that the Lord has made. Make up your mind that you will rejoice and be glad in it. God bless you. See you next time.
Hello, my name is Terrence White, and I'm the Executive Director of Community Action of Greater Indianapolis. Serving the counties of Marion, Hamilton, Hendricks, and Boone, our mission is to empower those we serve to be self-sufficient and self-reliant. We offer a variety of programming, including senior and youth programs, case management, weatherization, financial coaching, and more. Please visit our website for more information or call 317-396-1800.
Another summer day has come and gone away from Paris or Rome, but I wanna go home. Maybe surrounded by a million people, I still feel all alone. Just wanna go home. Oh, I miss you, you know. Let me go home. I've had my run, baby, I'm done. I gotta go home. It'll all be alright. I'll be home tonight. I'm coming back home.